Hey guys, Razor Blade Mango here, and whew, alright, let's talk about Sony not being at E3 2020 this year. So, you guys know that they weren't there last year, and to be honest, you could definitely feel the gap that Sony left by not being at E3 2019. And no matter how much Square Enix tried to fill in that 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time gap on that Monday night, they just couldn't cut it compared to Sony, what Sony could have done. And I honestly think Sony could have put on a conference last year. I think they had enough material in their back pocket from all their state of plays and whatnot that they could have saved up for E3. But they didn't do it, which I get. I understand that, and we'll get to that in a sec. But let me read to you Sony's official statement, because there have been rumors for a couple weeks now that Sony was not going to come to E3 2020. So let me read to you what they said, and this is coming from gamesindustry.biz, where a spokesperson from Sony said, "After thorough evaluation, Sony Interactive Entertainment has decided not to participate in E3 2020. We have great respect for the ESA as an organization, but we do not feel the vision of E3 2020 is the right venue for what we are focused on this year. We will build upon our global events strategy in 2020 by participating in hundreds of consumer events across the globe. Our focus is on making sure fans feel part of the PlayStation family and have access to play their favorite content. We have a fantastic line-up of titles coming to PlayStation 4, and with the upcoming launch of PlayStation 5, we are truly looking forward to a year of celebration with our fans." End quote. This is very interesting because you guys are all aware that PlayStation 5 is coming out in the holiday season of this year, as well as the Xbox. I guess the official name for it is called just Xbox, which, okay. But PlayStation 5 is coming out this year in the fall season. Pretty sure it's probably going to be like in November, around the Black Friday season. And it's interesting that they are choosing not to have an E3 conference this year of all years. And I think that says more about the waning relevancy of E3 than it does about whatever questions you have towards Sony's marketing team. Because, let's face it, E3 is dying. It's a slow, painful death, but it's dying. Nintendo already doesn't have their stuff. They don't have, conferences anymore at E3. Xbox chose to move away from there to the Microsoft Theater. They just don't have any interest, it seems. Like, a lot of big companies just seem to not have any interest in E3 anymore. Now, a lot of companies still do, because E3 definitely is the biggest video game convention in the world, but a lot of those big ones surprisingly just don't feel the need to be there. It's a situation of, you need us, we don't need you. And I think Sony can get away with having that kind of attitude. I think they've earned enough clout throughout this generation to have that attitude of, we don't need E3 anymore. And with past things that they've done, like Nintendo, I almost said Nintendo Direct, like the PlayStation State of Play and the PlayStation experience that they did for from 2014 through 2017, Sony has shown that they can get the word out on their own terms. And we live in an age of digital information where all Sony has to do is put out a blog post and they'll get the hype. They don't need to spend millions of dollars at E3 to get crowds going. All they have to do is put up a Wired article on a random Tuesday morning that talks about the PlayStation 5, and there you go. Send the internet ablaze with that. And I'm of two minds when it comes to this news of them skipping out on E3 2020. I'm looking at it from both a business perspective and an everyman perspective. Somebody who's not an influencer or a media head or whatever. From a business perspective, it makes sense. The ESA charges a gargantuan amount of money for companies to be at E3. Like a gargantuan amount of money from what I've heard. And it's a lot of time and money and effort to set up, let alone, it's not even taking into consideration like the conferences and the rush, like the companies that work under these companies that have to prepare demos for E3 and prepare presentations and all that shit. And that doesn't even include that. I'm talking about like the statues and the floor space and the kiosks and the demos and all that. It's like, it takes a ton of money to do that. It takes a lot of time and energy and planning to do that. And Sony's mindset seems to be, why do that when we can hold our own show, pay significantly less money, and yet gain the same amount of press and hype? It's a smart business move. You can't deny that. They are coming to this next-gen reveal on their own terms. And I hope Sony, from my point of view, I hope Sony doesn't go for the digital presentation for PS5. I think they need a crowded room for that. But I think we are leading up to it where Sony will announce some kind of reveal event for this. Probably in February or whatever. Now, from an everyman perspective, this sucks. I love watching E3 conferences. It's like a second Christmas to me. And I used to love like getting together with a group of friends and watching it, and especially the Sony one. That was what we all looked forward to, even if we didn't watch any of the other conferences that day or that week or that weekend or whatever. We always had the Sony one to look forward to that Monday night. And for the second year in a row, we're not going to get that. Sure, we will get other PlayStation-related conferences or state of plays or whatever. We'll get that. But there's just something about E3. It's just that unique time of year where we come together, like me and my friends, we all come together and we talk about E3, and we sit at my house and we order pizza and we watch the conferences, and it's fun. Like, as a social activity, I love E3. I don't like it as like a media hype thing or whatever. I think it definitely has problems with that, and I've made no qualms about expressing my dissatisfaction with that. But as a social event, I really enjoy E3. But we don't really have that this year again. We didn't have that last year, and no matter what Square Enix did to try to fill in the gap at that 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time space on that Monday evening, they just didn't do what Sony could do in the past. And Sony, like, for a long time, for like 2013 through 2016, I'd say it was like the golden era for their conferences. They killed it. Like, they knew what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and it was glorious to watch. It was so entertaining. And then they kind of lost their way with 2017, and then 2018 was like, where they had the games, but the format was shit. And I think that was why. I think that might have been the last straw where they were like, look, fuck it, we're just not going to come. We're going to hold our own digital events, and we're just not going to come. But it's really interesting, them deciding not to come this year when it's their next-gen console that they're going to be hyping up. I honestly, in my head, I can picture like a big blowout at E3 from Sony. We didn't come last year, but hey, we're back. But they're not. And I don't know what they're going to do to replace that. Because even if they hold their own PlayStation meeting, Xbox is definitely going to be at E3. And Xbox, I'm pretty sure Xbox is going to have not only their own Xbox reveal event for this thing, they're also going to have the E3 conference where they just pile on the games like they've been doing pretty well for the last couple of years. I don't know what Sony's going to do. And I would like to know so I could get some kind of idea of what their strategy is with this. And I have faith in Sony that they know what they're doing, but this is just another decision that's kind of like, And also, coming back to the business perspective, I also understand why they want to pull out, because from everything that I've heard about E3, what E3 2020 is going to be like, it sounds awful. It sounds like the ESA is like leaning hard into the influencer side of it, where instead of like the traditional like floor space and whatever, they're gonna turn it into this big like three-ring circus for the influencers that will be there. Like they'll get all the, like, it's like what EA does. Like it's where EA gets like the popular influencers to talk about their shitty games, and I feel like that's what EA or the ESA is going to try to do with this. And it sounds really awful, and I honestly can't blame anyone for not wanting to come to E3 after having their fucking personal information accidentally leaked to the public by the ESA. And the ESA is absolutely like dreadful timing, like on trying to like fix that leak. I can't blame anyone for not wanting to go to E3 this year. So, anywho, those are my thoughts on Sony skipping out on E3 2020 this year. It's gonna be interesting, but I hope Sony can pull it off. Like, you guys know that I'm always rooting for Sony. Like I always rail against like brand loyalty, but I'm a little bit of a hypocrite in that case because PlayStation is kind of like my home team. Because without them, I wouldn't have gotten into video games. Like, PlayStation is like the one that started it all, and like, hell, I'm staring at like every PlayStation console I have right now is next to my TV. So yeah, we'll see. I hope they can pull this off. I hope they don't shoot themselves in the foot, but we'll see. See what they can do. Alrighty. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will catch you all later. Bye.